welcome to Unscaled. I'm Jeremy Long, and as always, we talk to travelers and business strategists and family. We do all kinds of talk, and so this next interview I have for you is going to be really exciting. Really going to be something you want to tune into because she's got it all. She's got when you have a guest on with the name the Cashflow Queen, you gotta really tune in here because she earned that name somehow. And so we're gonna deep dive into her business, where she is a speaker and an online business growth strategist. And so we're gonna get into all this, and you're not gonna want to miss it. Welcome to the show, Kylie Menz. Kylie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, hopping on Zoom calls left and right.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeremy. Yeah, it's like we live on Zoom at the moment, don't we?
This is the only human contact I have.
It is like that. It's really crazy. It's like I used to obviously do a lot of it before lockdown, but now I'm just like, it's crazy. It feels really weird, I have to say. Yeah, I wish everyone would get back off Zoom though, so I can have it back to ourselves.
I would love to have face-to-face interaction with people and not feel like I'm losing my mind. But this is the best we got right now.
A real hug. It's like, someone hug me.
I wasn't much of a hugger before we began, but you know what? I think I've been converted, and I'm just going to be hugging people left and right. So let me give you a proper introduction for our guests who may not know you or may not know a little bit about you here. You have over 10 plus years in sales and marketing experience. You like to empower experts to create bigger impact through building their online income streams. And we're going to get into that and break all that down, what that means and everything. But let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and a little bit of your story.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So it's actually quite a prominent day today to be doing this story, which is quite interesting because one of my biggest turning points in my life that kind of got me started traveling, got me started, I guess, breaking out of my comfort zone at a fairly young age was unfortunately the loss of my brother. I was 21 years old. He was 23. And had a nasty motorbike accident. So it kind of changed the trajectory of my life very, very, very quickly. I always wanted to be the housewife. I always wanted to settle down young. And I kind of did. I did straight after. It was really interesting. But I am a firm believer now that he was there to actually get me through my brother. But because people come in and out of your lives definitely for reasons that when you need them. And so I got married. I got married like less than a year later, but I was then divorced by the time I was 24. So all in a matter of basically 4 years, I'd probably encountered at least two of the major things in your life that are meant to be the most stressful, that are meant to be the most upheaval. And obviously I decided to make a choice because you have to decide when things like that happen that you either make a choice and you do something with it, or you wallow in pity around it. And so I chose instead to do something about it. And I fell then into another relationship, which kind of sidetracked me slightly. And then when I found out for the second time in that actual relationship that I wasn't pregnant, which was by the time I was 26, so all in a very short space of time, I decided enough was enough, that I needed to do something completely different. And I decided to travel. I decided that I was going to get on a plane, no matter what, I was just going to go and explore the world. And so I did. And I found myself in London, and now I've been to 45 different countries now around, 45 different places, not countries, probably about 20 different countries around the globe. And I've kind of never looked back. And I was saying it's really fitting that it's today because it's actually my brother's 50th birthday today, would have been his 50th. So it's quite lovely that I'm actually having this conversation with you, Jeremy, today, of all days, around how I got started.
Wow. Well, number one, happy birthday to your brother.
Yes.
And if he was half as interesting as you are, then I'm sure that by now he would have probably walked on Mars. You kind of had this story that it's not too unfamiliar from what a lot of people go through. You experienced some different events, some tragedies, some just regular life occurrences, and you decided to kind of make that change. What was it really about these events internally. Can you describe and walk us through like that mindset of going through these things that some people would maybe get other people down, but you decided in this moment, you know what, I'm not going to be down about it. I'm not going to wallow in self-pity. I'm going to make a change.
Yeah, I did. I think it was like you said, I think it was definitely the turning point was when I thought I was pregnant and I wasn't. And I kind of come out and I sat there and I looked at life and just went, do you know what? Life's going to throw these things at me. And that's what I realized. I was like, God, really not another thing within just a short space of time, And I know loads of people go through more. And it's really funny you're talking about kind of owning your story, because I always never thought my story was enough. It's really interesting when you hear what some people have been through is incredible. But I do believe it was the internal dialogue with myself that I sat there going, look, life's going to throw these at me. What am I actually going to do about it? What do I really want? And I think that a lot of us in life don't ever ask ourselves what we really want. And I think that that's where, unfortunately, you can either take a tragedy and, like you said, let it bring you down every day, let it stress you out, let it kind of, and, don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy. I still have days I melt, 25, 27 years later. And, you still have those emotions, but, it also then led me to start to think about what would he want me to do? And I use that line quite often. If I'm stuck on anything or if life throws something at me, I sit there and go, what would my brother be proud of? What would he want me to do? Like, how would he want me to shine? And I really did force myself to have those conversations with myself internally all the time. And that led me to making choices which now serve me rather than not serve me, and explore. Yeah.
Well, let's, you're from Australia. You've been in the UK, you said, for about 15 years or so.
Yeah, I kind of stopped counting.
For a number of years.
We'll just 20 now, but I kind of stopped counting. Yeah, I was only ever meant to be here 6 months, and it's like, yeah.
So
years later.
How did you get to the UK? Why did you land on this? This is going to be my new home.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I went traveling quite a bit, and I spent 2.5 months in Africa. I traveled around to various different destinations. Excuse me, I don't have a virus, by the way. I actually nearly lost my voice twice in the last 2 weeks.
Isn't it weird that we have to clarify that now? Anytime I sneeze, I'm looking around going, I'm telling you, it's just, I got some pepper in my nose.
I went food shopping today and I coughed once and everyone just stared at me. I was like, no, I'm okay, I promise. But I've nearly lost my voice twice. I think it's too much chatting. So I've got now, I've lost train of thought. Why the UK? Yeah. So, it's weird. I was very lucky, I guess, because I had a bit of an open road to the UK because my mum was actually 4 years old when she went to Australia. So she was actually English. Which I hadn't really checked out much of her heritage, but I found out that they transferred out to the UK, out to Australia with the Air Force. My granddad was in the Royal Air Force. So they ended up in Adelaide, which Adelaide, if most people know, is very royal based. It's very English based. It was a very English type of colony. And so I got a right of abode. So I was basically allowed to stay in the UK longer than a normal visa. So I just use it as a base. Initially, it was a base of travel because it was easy, it was cheaper, it was closer to everything. One thing about Australia is obviously it's miles away from everything. So it was really a base for me to kind of travel and learn new things and just explore myself a culture. The one thing I love about London especially is all the different cultures. So that got me started, really.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry, we're going to Lysol the screen down and all that good stuff. So, the travel kind of goes hand in hand with the business, or for you, which came first? Was it just kind of opening up and looking at travel and kind of exploring the world, or did you really find your footing in online business first and then the travel? Because we'll start from the beginning wherever that story actually picks up.
Yeah, no, definitely travel first.
Okay.
I traveled loads. And then, of course, trying to do jobs and travel was always different, because obviously I was always then trying to fund the travel. So I was in the corporate world for a long time. And then, of course, so I did big trips in between. I kept leaving jobs because I always wanted to go you can never go for more than a week or two. And, I always wanted to travel. When I go, I like to go for like 3 or 4 weeks. I like to explore. And of course, going back and forth to Australia too didn't help, because obviously, going to Australia for a week is just pointless. You just spend all the time on the plane. So I kind of looked for flexibility, I guess. But I didn't do it at first. I kind of got stuck in that rut that we all get into. So I actually built a corporate career. I ran a really successful estate agency in London for 7 years. I was a sales manager. I worked my butt off 60 hours a week, and built a really successful business with the guy that owned it. And then I decided at first, that was my first attempt at entrepreneurial journey, was I quit. I got out of that, and I tried to Forex trade. And I learned to Forex trade quite successfully, and I was starting to pay my way. And then my broker went into receivership overnight with no warning. And so my whole account got literally on hold. I did manage to get basically all my funds back eventually, but originally it was all tied up. So I had no accounts, no savings, and I had to go back to work. So that was my first attempt at my entrepreneurial journey. And then I got into headhunting and recruitment. So I decided to go back into a role that I could still do, but not work weekends anymore. Because obviously with the estate agency, I was working weekends a lot. And I did that, but I kind of lost that heart and soul of selling. And if anyone's been in a top sales role, when you lose your passion for it, you lose your heart for it, you don't generally sell very well. So I got in there and I did okay, but I just knew I wasn't ready for it anymore. I just knew that I was now starting to get, what do the entrepreneurs say, they're unemployable, which I was getting to. And then my boss walked in one day, and this was the turning point. I was like, okay, enough's enough. Because he walked in one day bragging about his travel card, that he was now a pensioner, could get to travel for free. And I just looked at him and went, I don't want to be you in 20 years' time, basically. And that was my turning point out of the corporate rat race, and started my journey of the online world, basically. And that's what got me started.
So very interesting. I think we all kind of, we have different paths, but our stories are all kind of the same. If you've ever, tried entrepreneurship or tried to branch out on your own, everyone's point, I guess, is different. Everyone's starting point is a little bit different, but, for a lot of people, and myself included, it was a moment kind of like that. You have this kind of defining moment where you're just like, you know what, I think I can do more. I think, I'm just going to bet on myself here and just try this thing out. Walk us through when you first started, traveling, when you first started getting out on your own, when you first started, having and forming these ideas of starting this online business and doing things, remotely and all that by yourself. What were some of those first thoughts and feelings? What were some of those kind of like, did you have any hesitations, or was it all just like, hey, gung ho, let's do it?
Oh, hell no. I don't think any real entrepreneur would say they've had no hesitation. Definitely fear. I mean, fear is security, because you always think your job is more secure. So, you suddenly got security and now suddenly you don't. And you're sitting there going, shit, how am I going to pay that bill at the end of the month? How am I going to pay my rent or my mortgage? So I don't believe any entrepreneur would never, ever have that face, because you do totally. But I think you look at it as a different challenge. I think that's the thing. I think when you start your entrepreneurial journey, you do start to go, you build a resilience. You definitely build a resilience that a lot of people don't have. Like my parents many times said, oh, why don't you go back to work? You could be earning, 70, 80 grand again, and, life will be good. And it takes a lot of guts to stick it out long enough to make it a success. So I think, we all have definitely resilience issues. Like there's times I've gone, even look through the job centre going, should I go back to work? What have I done? Because, it's a roller coaster of income, especially when you first get started. It's like, it is that roller coaster ride. There's a couple of times I got close to bankruptcy going, shit, what do I do next? I don't have backup. That's the one thing about not having a partner or not having immediate family around you, is like you don't have backup. So, it puts the pressure on. There's been some pressurized time over the last few years. Hence my now passion for online stuff. So, because you can create some more consistency. But definitely getting started was, there was times that you got to question yourself, am I crazy? What am I doing? And I think there's a mindset shift as well. I think that you know this, that if you work in corporate, if you work in any sort of role, it does take a mindset shift to then suddenly be working for yourself. So, I wasn't productive to start with. I really hated isolation, like working from home. I come from a busy corporate, like busy demanding sales, where someone's on your butt every day, like, what have you done? What have you hit? What have you done? And then you suddenly get home, you're like, oh, cool. No one's over my shoulder today. Like, what do I do? Like, watch a bit of TV, stretch it out, So it's very easy to get distracted,
Right.
But then you find passion. And I think that's the thing. I think then you slowly dig into what you enjoy, you find your groove, and I think you learn that failure is okay. I think that's the big one as well, is that failing something, like so many successes always got failures before it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, when you're first starting this journey out, I mean, you do have those moments where you're so full of doubt, when you're staring at your bank account and you're going, oh man, I screwed up. I screwed up, but there's something where most people logically would turn around and say, okay, I got to do something different. I gotta maybe correct this mistake I've made. Entrepreneurs seem to have something built inside of them naturally that is more, no, I got to push forward. I got to just deal with the kind of ups and downs of what this entails and everything. Can you share with us a few of the, I guess, early mistakes you made along the way that helped shape you for the better to where, to get you where you are now?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's funny because I never really thought I had entrepreneurialism in me. I did nearly give up a few times, just going, am I like just a complete failure? Because, for so many years I was so successful in my corporate career. That's the other thing as well, like to then start afresh on your own. And I think especially with women entrepreneurs, a lot of our issues are belief issues. Like men just seem to be able to switch in sometimes a lot more quicker than what women can. And we always have to prove ourselves over and over again. So I think you have an extra belief issue when you first get started. So I think some of the things I did wrong was choosing the wrong mentor. You have to really choose a mentor right. And ideally you want to choose someone that's at least been on the journey that you want to go on. I think probably be a bit more coachable. I think that I dabbled for a long time, if that's the right word. And I guess in a way took it as not a bit of a holiday, because it was after obviously being in the corporate bit for a while. But I think that when you decide that you're all in, I think that is a thing. Most people keep you've always got a backup plan. And I think the turning point in most people's success is when they get rid of the backup plan. I think for me, it was very much there for a long time. I could always just go and get another job. So I kind of dabbled and played, but I never got really serious about really running a business rather than just not being at work, if you know what I mean. And that, I think, is the big part of the mindset shift as well, where you first start to think that you're kind of on holidays playing, you're doing stuff, but then suddenly it kicks into reality and you want to really grab business out of it. So I think that was the thing. I think the other thing that I did wrong originally was I didn't have a big enough why. I didn't really kind of tap into my drivers of why I was doing what I was doing. So for me at first, it was just a bit of escape. It was a bit of like, I'm burnt out. I don't really want to be in corporate anymore. What do I want to do? So I hadn't really tapped into that big driver behind my own message and my own kind of sense of purpose. And that took me probably about 12 months to find. So I think that was probably one of the biggest shifts and learning curves I had when I first got started.
Wow. I really loved your points there. And it's so accurate, especially your last two, talking about, commitment to what you're doing. And you kind of see travel and business, or the way I see it, travel and business are kind of hand in hand. A lot of them kind of go together, especially modern travel and modern business. We're seeing a lot of remote work now. Well, basically all remote work now.
I was going to say.
But, commitment is a huge thing when it comes to travel and when it comes to business. And you kind of mentioned and alluded to, having, always having a backup plan, always having that safety net, which, I did for years as well, when it came to personal things, never really fully committed, almost like a relationship even, right? I mean, how can you really see the value of the relationship and the strength of the relationship if someone, whether you or your partner, always seems to have a foot out the door, always ready to leave, always ready to jump off into something else because things get a little bit tough? So I really love the point about the commitment and the why. That is so incredible that you touched on that, because so many of us search in business, entrepreneurship, and travel with, just kind of going willy-nilly about it, I guess, as my mom would say, willy-nilly. You just kind of go and you do. And I'm not talking really about vacations and holidays, but so much of committing to travel for the purpose of travel and enriching yourself, just like business, for the purpose of supporting yourself, not necessarily a side hustle, but something that you want to do. So, I mean, wow, man, let's dive deeper into that, finding your why. What helped you, I guess, find your why in all this? Not only your travel, but also your business, and what kept you going through those moments where you're just like, it would be more logical for me to give up and start over and do something else?
Yeah, I think they always say, don't they, entrepreneurial journey is a personal development journey. And I 100% believe that. It's not really a business journey. There is obviously a business element to it, but definitely being an entrepreneur is a personal development journey. And I think that finding your why is that. It's really starting to explore your own values. So like one of my strongest values is freedom of choice. So, I choose to travel because that's what I love doing. That's where my life's kind of taken me. That's where I find inspiration and passion. So I've now embedded that into my business, so it becomes part of my business. And I think that when you start down the entrepreneurial journey, the key thing is to really dig deep into your own values. And one of the things I've really started to do recently is to really 100% back myself. So, I think we all come up against our own limiting beliefs. We all come against our own, they can do it, but I can't type scenarios. And now I've really started to stretch those big goals. I've really started to stretch my own ambition and to totally back myself that I can get there. And I think that comes from really digging deep into myself. Like I've really done a lot of work around my own values. I've done a lot of work around, what triggers me, what I get inspired by, what kind of makes me tick. And I'm on a really great program at the moment. And I shout out to Grant because he's an incredible high performance coach. But, he's even shifting me to another whole level around really understanding me, because then you can control anything in any situation. So that has just been a real game shifter in my business over the last sort of even just few months. And I really feel myself stretching like my why, even again, like now I'm looking at a big entrepreneurial project. I'm looking at giving back, like sort of thinking about how can I make an impact myself, whereas I've kind of watching other people do it. It's really interesting. So now I'm kind of putting myself on that own trajectory to get there within the next couple of years. So I think that having that why and having that driver, but understanding your values first, you really have to understand yourself and what makes you tick. Because so many people kind of, they start with one why. Of course, most people start with a why of either, wanting to escape something, wanting to create a bit of freedom, whatever it is, they normally start with that. But then you've just got to challenge yourself at all times, I think, to stretch that, to really kind of go, what if you could make an impact? And that's where I get my passion for obviously helping experts create a bigger impact, because most of us just play too small. Most of us play in our own little arena and not realizing how much of a difference we could make to someone else's lives if we just step up ourselves. And that's kind of been the big shift in me over the last definitely 6 months.
I love that. Most of us play too small. I think if you could put a title on this, which I guess I have to. I would love that, right? Most of us play too small, man. That hit home for me. I like that piece of advice there. Let's talk about your business in general. Let's, tell me what it is and tell the people what you do, and more importantly, why they should totally find you online and get involved with what you're doing.
Yeah, well, so I got started in my online journey as affiliate marketing, so which I think loads of people tap into. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to sell when I left corporate. That was the thing. All I knew was, wow, this online world has got a huge leverage capability, and that was what excited me. Was like, oh wow, you can be, in the street, but you could be speaking to someone all around the world, and that also taps into my travel passion, because I've connected with so many people around the world that whenever I go somewhere now, I kind of put a post out and go, hey, I'm going to be here. Anyone in my network around that wants to connect. So I always meet new people around the globe now as part of my connection. But so I started affiliate marketing, and I started selling other people's high ticket programs. And that's how I got started. So I was around some big internet marketers like Frank Kern, Shakir, like loads of different internet marketers. And that got my passion for internet marketing. And I started to learn new skills. Like you asked me 5 years ago, what was a funnel? What was a website? I didn't even know any of this. It's all jargon now. But that was what got me started. But what I didn't like was the kind of the get rich feel to it. Like as a female, as a business owner before, and kind of building that bricks and mortar business, I knew there was more that I wanted to do. But at the time, just wasn't sure what. And I started out just really helping people brainstorming. I'm really good with strategy. And I can see opportunities. So that's how I got my name, the Cashflow Queen, because I quite often sit and have conversations and I can spot like income opportunities really quickly to go, oh, you could monetize that. Have you added that to this? You could add another income stream. And that's how I got doing a load of strategy. And then my business developed from there. So it kind of developed out of need, out of what clients were asking me for. And then I started helping them what I call create signature programs online. Because for me, once you find your thing and you create a signature system around it, so it's your own methodology, you can then go and turn it into any type of product you want, whether you want to create a high ticket program, whether you want to create an online course, or even just a VIP day, mastermind day, or workshop, whatever it is. I'm about to turn mine into my book now. That's hopefully going to be to an editor by the end of the month. And so I've taken that signature system and I've created like 3 offers around that signature system. And that's what I love to do. I love to take someone else's expertise and their knowledge and then turn it into basically an online income stream or some sort of additional cash flow for them. And that's how I got basically doing what I'm doing, and I love what I do. And for me, it's like I said, it comes back to the expert to impact part, where I see so many amazing entrepreneurs with incredible skill sets that are just they're playing in their little zone, and I'm like, oh my God, do you know how many people need your skill set? So I've started to help them develop. Like one of my favorites at the moment, I've been helping some RTT therapists who are like what I call them hypnotherapy on speed. That's what I call them, because they get such quicker results. But, watching them, like their gift, they can shift someone's life in just a 2-hour session with them. It's incredible what they can do. And yet none of them know how to market their businesses. They don't know how to tap into it. They don't know how to position themselves in the marketplace. And that's where they're charging like 100 quid. I just got a girl up to 2.5 grand. It's like suddenly they're like, wow, we can actually do what we love and make an impact. And that's where I get really excited. Yeah, really excited.
Man, that is amazing. And I work in digital marketing. I have a company, Full Metal Worldwide. And we deal with digital marketing and companies and everything, and even brick and mortar businesses that you would think in the year 2020 going into 2021 that marketing would be full-fledged on the tips of everyone's tongue, and people, I mean, you could go on YouTube right now and find a million videos on marketing and things like that, but how few people know how to truly implement marketing that will actually change their business for the better is still amazing to me. So to hear you doing it and know that you're out there helping people and changing the dynamics of their business to, like we kind of alluded to, from hobbies and things that were just kind of making money on the side to actually full-fledged careers, by multiplying their streams of income and all that.
And
Simply amazing.
It's like, you must see this all the time. Like, it still amazes me in this day and age that people don't have lists. Like, I find that incredible. I'm just like, it's so many business. I've got a new client coming on next month, speaks on international stages. She's in 4 books and she doesn't have a list at all. And then she wonders why her business stops when stuff like this happens. And you're like, oh my God, are you kidding? Like, you're an international, seriously, the next caliber of her book that she's in is with Oprah. It's crazy. And yet she has no list, no social media presence. I'm like, oh. So, my dream client, because I'm like, yay, I can monetize you and scale really fast, because it's going to be very easy to get publicity, very easy to get her noticed. But it just gobsmacked me that in this day and age, like, of the basic stuff of marketing that's not in place, a simple list building strategy, and it's just like there's none, and they wonder why their businesses don't grow.
I see it a lot where businesses will, it's not because they, believe me, if anyone's listening out here, it's not because anyone's dumb or they're dense to it. It's you're concentrating on your area of expertise. Like, if you're a graphic designer, you're worried about graphic design, not building a social profile or whatever. But you start learning that, without these lists, without, recurring clients and clients coming to you, you're spending a lot of your time out there trying to find clients instead of having, building these inroads to, for them to find you. And so that is how important is that?
I guess understanding the power of marketing still. That's what surprised me, I guess. Yeah, because you're right, because they just stay in their zone of genius, and it's like, which is passionate, and I love it, to get on international stages and you watch someone like that and you're like, you are incredible at what you do. But in a way, that's why I get so excited, because it's like, wow, with just a bit of a spin and a bit of a shift, suddenly that impact is just going to be even greater again. This kind of the initial stages of what she's even done hasn't even touched the sides of what she could do if she really kind of just had a bit of direction and a bit of support. And that's where I like to call myself the Oprah of their businesses, because I filter people in, that's what Oprah does. She's like, she literally helped other people, didn't she, shine? And that's what I like to say. I like to help other people shine. I forget my own shit for a long time. I only started my own group program to leverage like 3 months ago. It's ridiculous. I was like, it's about time I did my own to leverage. It's hilarious. But yes, because I like to watch other people shine. Like one of my property girls last year, she's just announced she did 200K last year from one income stream we created, and that's added so much of a dynamic to her business, which she would never have done. She's been sitting on those ideas for like 2 years.
Man, just like they say that doctors are their own worst patients. Sometimes marketers and entrepreneurs are some of the worst at marketing ourselves. It's so much easier to come up with someone else's plan of attack than it is on our own, man. It's frustrating.
You know this too, because you also get so excited you're working on other people's stuff. It's like, I was just saying, I was actually talking to someone today to handle my social media, because I said to her, I've got 4 projects on the go coming up, and I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I'll get so into them and so excited by them, I forget my own marketing. So I've engaged someone to basically start next month to run some of my social media in between, because otherwise it'll just go the side again. So we all have our strengths and weaknesses, don't we? We have to acknowledge those and deal with it from there.
And I'll tell you, I had a client hit me up yesterday for some quick graphic design stuff, knocked it out in a couple hours. But I have personal graphic design stuff that I need to do for my brands that I've been, putting off for the last 4 months now. So I'm telling you, my own worst patient is me. So
I think we all are. It's like they were saying, mechanic never works on his car. Look at the, house builders never have their own houses decked out. It's like, it takes them ages. And I think we are all, where's our own worst enemies, aren't we? Yeah.
Well, how can people find you? How can they hook up with you online? Where are you at on social media?
Yeah, well, pretty well everywhere. My main focus is I'm big on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn, hang out there every day, because LinkedIn's where my clients are. I've got my Facebook group. My Facebook group is Expert to Impact Community, because obviously it's all about experts to number 2 impact, so that they go out and create a difference. And that's my community. So that's where I hang out all the time as well. And I'm starting to really grow that now. So that's one thing I've getting back into is growing my own community, because like I said, I lost track of that. So that's where you'll find me loads at the moment. So yeah.
There you go. LinkedIn is the hot ticket item right now. So, you know, everyone should, if you don't have a LinkedIn, it's kind of like Facebook circa 2010. People are going, you don't have a Facebook, you know?
Yeah. See, it's funny. I use LinkedIn a lot in obviously corporate world because I was on recruitment. So I used LinkedIn for a long time and then shifted off from my business, and now I'm back on it. And, you know, the caliber of clients you get from it is, you know, that people are on there to do business. It's a different ballgame.
Absolutely.
And the organic reach is awesome.
Oh yeah. Before they change those algorithms.
Yeah, get in there now.
Get involved in LinkedIn before they change it.
Like, wow, you're in suddenly, you know, you do that on Facebook, you might get 100 people, and you do it on there and you get 700 people watching you. It's like, yeah, it's growing quite nicely.
If,
but
if we had 100 people, it'd be amazing on Facebook.
Yeah, but don't look at my social media as an example. I'm the worst. I build funnels, remember, I have funnels, I list build. So my social media is definitely not the best.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
And before we go, you know, since we started talking about travel, you know, a lot of travel plans canceled this year. And of course, you know, if anyone travels, mainly probably going to be domestic for most of us, at least to the end of the year. But your next few countries up, where are you hoping to hit, or places in general, where are you hoping to hit?
Places, yeah. So obviously I'll have to do the honorary trip home, because otherwise I'll get shot. So definitely back to Adelaide, back to Australia, because especially after all of this, because, you know, they're more in fear of me over here. Like, they're fine where they are. There's nothing. There's not even been a case around them. So obviously they've been watching our stats go up every night, sort of thing. So more worried about me than them. They're like, I wish you'd got on a plane. I was like, I couldn't. It was too late. So definitely back to the honorary Adelaide. And then I think I'm really thinking Cuba's been one of the places I've been putting off. So I really want to go to Cuba before it all completely changes. And I've got a good friend out in Santiago in Chile. So I'm starting to think about, that might be my next kind of hotspot. Go out and visit her. You know, again, taking that life's too short. I haven't seen her out there, and she's moved about 3 years ago. So I might go out and do a visit, I think, and catch up with a very, very dear friend of mine.
Well, there you go. I love it. Travel becomes that much personal whenever you can't do it. You know,
have you got one then? I have to ask. It'll have to be.
Well, you know, canceled plans and all. It was supposed to be in Lisbon in the fall. I don't think that's going to be happening. Then I do actually have a trip planned back home to Texas. That the flight keeps getting moved, obviously. And then we did purchase a kind of one of those all-inclusive packages earlier this year before everything got locked down, to Cancun in Mexico. So, you know, which is actually from Vegas, is actually just like a 2-hour flight. But so it's kind of domestic, but it's still kind of international at the same time. And, you know, a few trips like that, man. Right now, if I can just make the Texas trip happen, I'll be happy, you know. Yeah,
that's kind of like home and see the family. I think that after everything else, it's you've got to go with family first, don't you?
I think that's going to be the mindset of a lot of travelers out there this year, is make that trip home or see friends, or, you know, something like that, and wait for everything to kind of get somewhat back to normal before we start looking international.
I promise, flying to Australia, always have to fly through those hot spots. It's the China, the Singapore, and Dubai. I'm like, I might just stay around for a little bit.
You're like, I'm just going to hang out in the airport Chili's for a while. Well, Kylie, thank you so much for taking time out again, like I said. And thank you for sharing your journey with us, and, you know, your business opportunities, and just your love of travel and everything like that. And, you know, so sorry for your loss of your brother, but happy birthday to your brother. And I hope you spend the day celebrating his life. And I hope we can meet up again and talk real soon.
Awesome. And thank you to your viewers. Hopefully this has inspired you to break your comfort zone and find a travel destination.